Friday, November 28th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, we are talking nutrition and health. It's a conversation that will touch on impacts of food insecurity. We'll talk maternal diets. We'll talk the importance of traditionally and culturally appropriate foods, and a bit on food literacy. Okay, off to the running here on our Friday show. The Signal at cbc.ca. If you've got thoughts through the show, you can text us to 709-327-8206. Professor Sukhinder Cheema is back, University Research Professor, Department of Biochemistry. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Adam. It feels great to be here again. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, you were last here. It was the Circle of Distinction Awards, right? We were talking about an award you got, and afterwards, and like to tell folks how like the magic for radio happens sometimes. Afterwards, we were talking in the lobby of the CBC, and I was just like, "You've got so much you could talk about. We should plan something." And here we are.
Thank you.
Who's with us here today? Tell us who's here with you. Let me see. We've got Sarah Parsons is here.
Yes.
How you doing? Tell us about yourself.
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. I am a new postdoc, started in Dr. Cheema's lab in September after driving here from Alberta. And I did my PhD at the University of Alberta in intestinal health. And that wasn't random because I'm a dietitian by training. And after working for a few years and getting sick myself, I developed a business based on fermented foods, wanting to really bring awareness to people's intestinal health by using fermented foods in their diet plans. And then I wasn't completely satisfied with that. I wanted to know more, learn more, have more of an impact. And so I started down the research world, and I'm here today in St. John's with Dr. Cheema.
Yeah, well, welcome.
Yeah,
welcome in a couple senses of, coming here to the studio, but also to the province.
Thank you.
And being part of the community. What's your favorite, not to make you pick a favorite, but fermented food-wise, where do you like?
I love sauerkraut.
Okay, amazing.
I love sauerkraut. There's so many different flavors you can incorporate into sauerkraut, and it's just one of my staples.
See, I really like sauerkraut. I'm more of a kimchi person myself, but I love sauerkraut too. And I mean, anything fermented for the most part can be fantastic.
I'm learning.
What?
I'm learning fermented carrots.
And fermented carrots are great.
Yeah, I love it.
I give tutorials to my supervisor.
A couple of years ago in South Korea, I had fermented skate, the fish.
Oh.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
There's a bit of an essence of ammonia when you eat it, which it really, you can have a throat lozenge to clear your sinuses, or fermented skate. So I will just leave that there. Namda Weera Cody, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right, tell us about yourself. PhD candidate at one, right? And also, doing presentation. I mean, you just came from, was it this morning you had a presentation? The 3M thing, was that this morning?
That was, yes.
Oh, yesterday?
2 days ago.
2 days
2
ago.
days ago,
Okay,
yeah.
that's in the past. Anyway, so tell us about yourself.
I am Narmada Virakodi. I'm originally from Sri Lanka. I am the PhD student of Dr. Cheema. I love food. Yep. I want to know more about food, and make foods nutritious at the same time. They should be very tasty. That's
Excellent.
what I do.
Excellent. Amazing. How's it working with Professor Cheema? Good?
Great.
She's very demanding, I know.
Actually, it helps.
Namda is one of those students who nominated me for the YWCA.
Oh, you're one. Okay, wow. So obviously, she's made quite the impact. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great to work under her. I'm very fortunate to be her student.
Excellent. Tell me about your lab.
My lab?
Yeah. Well, tell us the stuff you do.
My lab was always in the Department of Biochemistry for 27 years, Adam. But a couple of weeks ago, it is now changed.
Okay.
Department of Biochemistry does not exist at MUN anymore.
Oh.
So I have to tune my head to remind me, we are now human biosciences
Human biosciences.
and not biochemistry.
All right, I'll stop saying that on the air then when I introduce you. So human what like when we
When
say
I forget, Adam, because 27 years I have been in the Department of Biochemistry, and now officially it's human biosciences. So I have to remind myself. I actually have to change my signatures in my email.
you do.
I forgot
Yeah,
because
no
it still says Department of Biochemistry, but we are human biosciences.
Oh, I know,
now.
because that's where I copied and pasted that this morning from when I was going to introduce you.
So, in 27 years, I have been here at Memorial, and one of the first research, I teach nutrition courses and biochemistry courses at MUN, but my passion is really research.
Yeah, like the notes on you, it's like 100 scientific papers, more than 100 scientific papers. You're known for fostering international collaboration, spearheading community outreach programs that promote healthy living. Why is promote, other than the fact that it helps you live longer and feel better, why is this so important for you, promoting healthy living?
Well, health is everything,
Yeah.
right? If we were to think of health is everything for us. You can have money, it doesn't buy you good health.
Yeah.
What buys you good health is healthy eating. So, I'm a biochemist. That's why I was like, Department of Biochemistry doesn't exist anymore. I'm a biochemist. So all my degrees are in biochemistry. But my first postdoc was, so Sarah and I share a very close bond, because the very first lab where I did my very first postdoctoral position in nutrition and health, the professor under whom I trained in the field of nutrition also happens to be Sarah's PhD supervisor. So we
Really?
both trained from the same lab.
Right on.
So being a biochemist, you look at biochemical pathways. It's just like what goes on in your body, what is the chemistry of your body, you learn about that. But I never actually made the connection that when we learn about, for example, the fats that you consume, what really happens to those? It goes through a biochemical pathway. And how is it digested, absorbed? What does it do in your body? How does it interact with what is going on in your body? So it really fascinated me. And that is the connection I made at the University of Alberta in this nutrition lab with Dr. Tom Clandinen. And it was absolutely fascinating that what we put in our mouth actually controls our health. And I just kept getting more and more interested in that and learning how food can control our health. When I came to Memorial in 1999, at that time, one of the hottest topics in the field of nutrition was what mothers eat during pregnancy and how it impacts the health of their newborn child in later life.
In later life.
In their adult life.
So what mothers eat, so because you think, okay, obviously maternal health and what expecting mothers are eating is important for the growth of a baby, right? But later life
is the life of that baby when they become adult.
Yeah.
And so that was the hottest topic, that what the nutritional status of the mother during pregnancy actually programs their developing fetus in such a way that they are predisposed to certain diseases. And those specific diseases that were studied was the mortality rate from heart disease, mortality rate from type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and hypertension. So this was the hottest topic in the early 90s. And that was related to low birth weight. So if the child is born with a low birth weight, it will be predisposed to those diseases in their adult life. And what is low birth weight linked to? is poverty, is food insecurity, not having enough food during pregnancy. So being malnourished or undernourished or lacking certain nutrients during pregnancy, the fetus doesn't develop properly, and that's what predisposes them to increased risk of disease in later life.
So then can I ask you, the fact that in recent years we've seen rates of food insecurity in this province go in the opposite direction than we want, not being lowered, going up higher, and with children, right? What are your thoughts on that? That because you're 1999, and now we're knocking on the door of 2026, and we've got these high rates, especially when you compare us nationally, of food insecurity. Tell me what you think.
I think it's a huge problem, to be honest. I mean, not so huge problem from pregnancy perspective, the health of the mother during pregnancy, the health of the growing fetus, and then, as I mentioned, that when they grow up in their adult life, they are predisposed. So we are not thinking about the impact of food insecurity that can have that can last for generations. And this effect is not just in one generation; it's multi-generational. So it continues because it actually changes the genetic makeup of the growing fetus. So it's not just simple, or there is onset of heart disease. There are certain genetic changes that happens in the growing fetus, and that becomes a generational thing. So nutrition during pregnancy is important, but when a woman gets pregnant, they don't know
Yeah.
food, and they're not going to change their diet all of a sudden. So what are they eating before pregnancy also has an impact. So during childbearing age, for example, is very important to eat healthy. And you said children going through food insecurity. So that is, again, going to have a huge impact on their health in later life. So all of these things are connected. So we can't just say food insecurity.
So much bigger.
It's so much bigger, and it is a generational effect, not just one generation.
Well, and now, anytime, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but when I look at a province that has got really poor health outcomes, right, across the board, there's a reason why the previous government brought in the health accord. So you've got that going on. You look at the expenditure, how much that gets spent on the healthcare system. You look at the heart disease rates in this province. We just did a show yesterday on diabetes, leading the country, by the way, in diabetes rates historically, Newfoundland and Labrador, also in there, plus high cancer. All of these things, when we boil it down to this conversation, some of it, you're like, well, if it goes to food insecurity, poverty, and obviously there's other things, like even if you smoke and not, and perhaps drink or not, or whatever else. But some of it being boiled down, the connection to poverty, food insecurity, and then the decades-long impacts of that. There's things we can do. There's solutions that can be found, which is getting people access to appropriate, affordable, to appropriate, nutritious food.
Oh, for sure. I mean, accessibility.
Yeah.
To food is, I think it's basic human right, actually. It is basic human right to have good, healthy, nutritious food. So accessibility to food is very important. Affordability. It should be affordable. Healthy food is expensive.
Yeah.
And food prices have gone up, since COVID, food prices have gone up significantly. I know students, I have that discussion with them all the time.
Yeah.
Just asking them, what do you eat? Can you buy healthy food? And rent is expensive, food is expensive. So I think accessibility and affordability both go hand in hand. And it's, as I said, the impact is lifelong.
Yeah. I will say, too, I know I keep talking about previous shows, but just to remind people of the conversation that we have here on the Signal. So I mentioned diabetes yesterday. Thursday, November 13th, we did a show on why do food prices keep climbing, right? And we had Josh Smee on that show, CEO of Food First NL. We had Memorial University poli-sci prof Russell Williams on. We had David McDonald, senior economist with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. And we also talked to Darrell Bennett, whose family owns convenience stores in Happy Valley Goose Bay, to talk about the rising price costs of food, accessibility around it, some of the impacts of it, and kind of that was a bit of the why food prices are going up. But then on our end here, we're talking about if you can't afford it, if you can't have access to it, there's a health impact on that. And that health impact can be multi-generational.
Exactly.
I'm looking at the two PhDers here as well. Any other thoughts for both of you as we're talking here? From anything jump out at you? Sarah?
Sarah can add from her dietetics perspective.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say, and Dr. Chima just mentioned briefly, was that, nutrition status isn't built overnight. It's not like when a woman, is aware that she's pregnant, that even changes that she makes overnight aren't going to instantly change her nutritional status.
Yeah.
And so it requires that regardless of whether or not someone's planning to get pregnant, including males as well, because the quality of a sperm is also affected by nutrition.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it's not just the female health. Both partners have a role to play in their health. That needs to be almost something that they live. And that doesn't just change with the flick of a switch, which is when you conceive, right?
So there's consistency, right? Is consistency then part of it? If we talk about nutrition, so being consistently healthy, having consistent nutrition.
Sure. It needs to be a priority.
Yeah,
a priority that regardless of how things change in life, or regardless of many lifestyle changes, that your priority is choosing healthier foods. And we're going to talk more about that,
of course,
ability to choose that. Yeah. I recognize that it's not always easy to have the accessibility to healthy food, but when it is within our power, this needs to be made a higher priority, and just something that you see as impacting not only yourself but also a future generation.
So then, if we talk about access, there's the financial side of it, sometimes the geographic side of it, but also where does education? Because some of what you're saying, I can think of an education side of the component to it. Where does that come into it?
It's so funny because I went through a dietetic program, so there was about 50% of us, or 50 students in our nutrition cohort, and supposedly we all had an interest in food, right? Mm. And the director of our program had found that the students just were really lacking in food literacy. They didn't know how to prepare healthy foods, even though they had an interest in food, which led them to
the food nutrition students didn't know. Okay,
so they had to develop a course around how to cook, how to use food, so that they had the skills to then counsel other people on
what hope is there for anyone if the people who care about this don't know?
Yeah, it was very surprising to me because I had an interest in nutrition for the health benefit, but then I also cooked my own food. And I will say that the majority of nutrition students do like to cook their own healthy food, and that they do have food literacy. But I was just so surprised that this was enough of an issue that the director of our nutrition program had to be like, oh, we got to do something about this.
That's wild.
So yeah, food literacy comes from what your mom teaches you in the kitchen, or what a grandma teaches you. It's not, again, these skills aren't developed overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to add something to what Sarah is talking about, and you asked about food, education and awareness. I will just share my own
go for it.
Example. So at home, I cook almost every single day. It could be just a simple meal, but it is fresh cooked meal every single day. And my daughter, she's a lawyer now in Toronto, but growing up, she was my taster.
Okay.
And my dad was my taster, right? Yeah. So they would sit down and they would taste the food that I cooked to tell me what was lacking to make it more tasty. And I think learning from the childhood from the age of 5 or 6, learning that process that I cooked fresh meal at home every day, and the entire family sat at the kitchen table and they're tasting the food and telling me what is missing in their food to make it more tasty, was such a good learning experience for my daughter that she cooks at home every day now. So I think that kind of training, that kind of family setup, that kind of knowledge sharing from, like you said, from grandparent down to the parent, down to their children, is lacking to some extent these days. And I think families need to make that connection again, because it's not just for eating the food, it is also family connections. It is also, Namda's 3MT presentation was all about traditional knowledge.
So before I go, we've got two folks on the phone, and we're going to go to them in just 1 minute. Now, I do want to ask you about that. I kind of did a poor job of teasing it in the beginning when I mentioned you were giving a presentation a couple of days ago. But this is the 3-minute thesis challenge. It happens every year at Memorial University. I've judged these in the past. They're fantastic because you see these very smart people try to boil down all the work they're doing into 3 minutes, which is like almost sounds like it should be impossible, but everyone manages to do it in such an interesting way. Tell us just a bit on that traditional side of things that you talked about.
Yeah, that was the essence of my 3-minute presentation. It was like traditional knowledge, why we should care traditional knowledge, because I started with my own experience. My nana was not looking for medicine when I had a stomachache. Like she would give something, she would make something random and give it to me, and then like I'm good. So that's traditional knowledge.
Yeah.
So this province has the highest proportion of elders from all over Canada.
Yeah.
So they have the knowledge. So
Oh, that's such a great point.
yeah, that was my point. So traditional knowledge is important. They knew somehow, they had their own science.
Yeah.
So that also science. But they didn't have any Western scientific evidence to prove that this is good and this is bad.
They just
Or
knew
what's
what
in
worked.
it, or
What's
what is
in
in it
it,
that
yeah.
gives you health benefits.
Yeah, so they didn't know that, but they did know every other what is good.
They
Yeah.
knew it worked,
Yeah.
but they didn't know why it worked.
And the most important thing is that they did it.
Yeah.
Because someone can know and not do.
Exactly.
And so you actually have to eat healthy or consume these certain foods to get the health benefits.
Yeah, the knowing and the doing.
Yes.
Right? All right. So, Professor Chima, you've been working with communities in the province.
Yes, that's my other project that I didn't get to talk about. It's it's again nutrition and health. We got big funding 3.5 years ago to work with the indigenous communities here in Newfoundland to co-develop our research with them.
Yeah.
And it's what Narmada presented the other day in her 3-minute thesis presentation is her PhD project. That is the work that we are doing with the indigenous communities. And it's a two-eyed seeing perspective. So where one eye is the traditional knowledge that we gain from the indigenous communities, and then the other eye is the Western science where we work in the lab. So working with the indigenous communities, we are learning from them about their traditional diets, what they consumed, what existed in Newfoundland, like what was their traditional diet, and what their specific cooking methods to retain the nutritional value of that food. So we are learning all of that side from the indigenous communities.
Yeah.
And then gaining that knowledge from the indigenous communities, we then bring that knowledge to our lab and follow their methods to see how what is found in those marine foods that they consumed. Did they consume any marine food specifically for health purposes? What is in those marine foods that could have given the health benefits? So Narmada is extracting the compounds that are found in these marine foods, and the indigenous communities provide the samples to us. We don't go hunting for the samples. They share with us what is of interest to them.
All right. Well, I will. We've got Chief Jason Benoit on the line of Benoit First Nation on the Port-au-Port. Chief Benoit, how you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on the show. And I will also introduce Chief Peggy White of Three Rivers, Mi'kmaq Band, which makes up 10 communities near Robinson's. Chief White, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you both for coming on the program. Chief Benwell, I guess we'll start with you. Just talk to us a bit about, if we're talking about food and health, and we've been talking about food insecurity so far, could you just talk a bit about what the Benwell First Nation, what the surrounding community, folks on the Port of Port are facing when it comes to food, nutrition, and food insecurity?
Well, it's a problem that many communities are facing, and that is having access to cheap processed food. And not having access to traditional foods that are more natural, obviously more healthy, nutritious, and that's kind of one of our main focus right now. Is food security. So we're talking about our local animals, wildlife. We're talking about local plants, local berries, and planting and growing various kinds of special vegetables and fruits that make people healthy. We're doing it on a community level, so we're doing this to make this available to our communities for free. So that's our focus right now, and that's what we're working on. We just got a greenhouse covered in there this year.
Oh, really?
Finally.
Congrats.
And we've been running community gardens for a while, but we want to enhance that, and we're actually developing what we call a medicine garden, which is with medicine berries that we're working on. And through our partnerships with the university, and hopefully, as early as next year, we'll be doing some of this community garden in the greenhouse type of approach. Hopefully, along with the school kids in the schools, part of the program. And because we also focus on senior support, and this is also fitting with our senior population, but it's fitting with all families, of course, but especially the seniors who are running on a tighter budget every year and not eating as healthy as they should be.
When did you first start kind of putting your head to this, being like, we need to make some changes?
Years ago, really. I mean, and we're just kind of growing on that continually, and not necessarily meeting my goals that we're setting every year, but we're still working toward getting to those goals of having people access, be able to access cheap or free healthy foods. That's our goal. So more community gardens. We're going to develop more community gardens as well. But the special project I have is to have a community garden in a large greenhouse. So we have people, community members able to come in, have access to the bins, the ground, the seeds, the water. But have a longer growing season and being able to grow specialty items as well, because you're covered by the greenhouse. So that's the kind of thing that we're working on as well, besides our outside community gardens.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking, okay, you're shoring up your food security, you're lowering rates of food insecurity so folks can, and then like what you're doing as well, it's access to culturally appropriate food, country food, things that have been traditionally part of the community, and all of that as well on the nutrition side, but also on the togetherness around a greenhouse, around community gardens. All of that builds community togetherness and pride, and there's a other whole level of health too, outside of like just the individual physical health. I mean, it can really spread across a whole community that way.
That's exactly it.
Sit tight. If you want to say something, just speak up. I'm going to do a whip around now in a second. I'll go to Chief White first, though. Chief White, just can you talk to us about around Three Rivers, around the 10 communities near Robinson's, and the same types of things that Chief Benwell was just talking about?
Well, this is bigger than this is the entire Bay St. George area.
Yeah.
We are living in the economic zone 4 for Newfoundland, which is the poorest place in Newfoundland. And we have 50% over 60. We have, most of the people lived seasonal work, agriculture in the woods, fishing, and when they retire or when they, reach 65 or whatever, they've never maxed out CPP. They don't have pension plans. Mm-hmm. There's no extras, so they live far below what's needed. Our economic situation is terrible. So if we we have a 75-kilometer drive to the nearest service town, Stephenville. We have all the communities have a drive into a grocery store, so we don't even have access to a mainstream grocery store. So we pay much higher prices. People can't afford it. So when we talk about a food strategy, we have to look at the underlying causes. Why do we have such food insecurity, and what's going to be needed to address? We have a 34% of the children here. We did a study with Munn University, and the numbers are staggering. That there's that much percentage. We're working on this school food lunch program, but nothing is started yet. It's always a year behind, every year behind. So we continue to wait. And old age pensions. How are people living on old age pension when at the end of the month, by the time they pay the basic necessities, they can't afford fresh food? Never mind the transportation costs, because with just normal CPP, old age security and the bump up, you're looking at $1,600 a month. How are people supposed to survive? So we have issues that the provincial government really needs to look at, and then on top of that, you look at Indigenous people. We have been struggling. We're not getting any assistance. The government is far behind on recognition of our communities and the work we do on the ground. Our volunteers are exhausted. It's a hard go. So how do we move to a point where this is looked at as a crisis? So if you have 50% of your population food insecure, how do you fix that without massive intervention? And we need some kind of resolution, at least have government sit down and say, what's going on in these little communities, because it's not like they're not aware, but where's solutions? And we need to start looking forward to solutions. Where's funding for extra? We can't cover hampers and the basic survival needs of people. So when you talk about nutrition and all the rest, you're not getting that with Mr. Noodle. I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
It just doesn't work. But that's all you can afford. So the cost of living has become a nightmare for most seniors. And then we look at what impacts is all of this having? Well, we have double the rate national of heart disease and double the rate of diabetes and double the rate of all kinds of other things that are all nutritionally based. It all comes back to food. And there are impacts, and we're not looking. And the Mi'kmaq population, those impacts are even that much more. So how do we address these? We need a comprehensive plan that's not a year or two away. It's immediate.
So, Chief White, this is obviously not the first time you've been talking about this out loud. We have a new provincial government. Have you spoken with them, either from the previous government or the new one? If things are so dire as you describe, what's the response when you say this?
Well, we're waiting for a meeting.
Waiting for a meeting.
We're waiting. And it wasn't addressed in the last government, and it's not addressed now. And, how do we get heard? Not everyone can agree, but we need to have some kind of intervention, some infrastructure, something happening that we can do better for our community members.
So what would be the steps let's pretend the meeting was just had and everyone agreed on next steps for ways forward. What, in your opinion, what would those steps be to help your community?
Well, we need an on-the-ground assessment. We need to make sure exactly who is going to need help. Where can we get that help? Is it raising old age or provincial security numbers, like for social assistance or old age? Do we fund X amount of dollars every month to make sure the food banks have enough and can actually add fresh food into their things? And we have a community fish quota, so that we know at least when people they can get their fish for the year. And there are things that can be done that's not outside the box, that we have to change massive amounts of legislation. We just have to better understand what the needs are of the community, and you have to go to the community to understand those needs.
Right, of course, right. In order to fully understand something, I mean, it's as they say, boots on the ground, right? You need to go in, talk to folks, get the feel for things, see it with your own eyes, and understand it.
This year, I know one senior that had a moose license couldn't go and get it because the packaging of the moose was to cost so much now that they can't afford that, so their moose license stays. Or, there was a gentleman that was talking online saying, his wife got the license this year, but she's unable to go in the woods, but he can't get her moose for her because she can't travel to the backcountry anymore. There's all kinds of different things that we can change to make it better for people on the ground, but they have to talk to the people in the ground.
Right. And
you're come up with strategies.
And as you say, you're still waiting for a meeting. Is this with the Premier or with the local MHA, or is it a mix?
With the Premier.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We see, the Premier has time for, the larger bands and things like that. We're the people on the ground. We're the ones who work every day trying to make things better in our community. We don't get paid. We volunteer like 100 hours a week, and we take a lot of backlash for it, and we're trying very hard to make things better for a lot of people with absolutely no assistance, and it's getting more and more difficult every year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can hear the frustration, and obviously, right, if you're looking at a community with everything you've described, to be in your position of responsibility for folks, that must be a very difficult thing.
Now, listen, we live in a beautiful place with beautiful people.
Oh, I've been to the area, and I've been out for Flat Bay's powwow, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And beautiful people, beautiful area.
And we deserve better.
Yeah.
We do. Most of these people work very hard all their lives, and they're good people. And they deserve better from the government. They pay taxes their whole lives, and better.
I'm going to bring it back. Professor Chimo has been taking notes as I've been talking, so I know you have a couple thoughts. And because when we talk about visiting communities, right, you folks have, and there is this ongoing
Cape
work.
St. George, and Nirmda came with me.
Yeah.
It was absolutely stunning. We stayed at the inn, and Chief Peggy, Chief Benwa, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today, and thank you so much for joining us. And every time I talk to you, Chief Peggy, you know how I feel. Like I have always felt as I progress in my career, Adam, like being at Memorial University doing this nutrition and health research, I have always felt like, what is my research worth if I haven't shared my knowledge with public at large?
Yeah.
And just going out to the communities, learning from them about the challenges that they are facing, talking to Chief Peggy White, Chief Benwa. We just learned so much about the communities, and it really makes me very sad. And I have shared that with Chief Peggy White, like how sad it makes me every time we go visit them and learn about the food insecurity. Chief White just talked about like double the rates of heart disease, double the rates of type 2 diabetes in those communities, and the amount of food insecurity exists in those communities really makes me wonder about my maternal nutrition project and thinking undernutrition, malnutrition is equal to low birth weight, is equal to higher incidence of heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes. How did that impact these communities? Is that the reason maybe these communities are struggling with those kind of health issues, with that kind of food insecurity? So if that is not tackled, if something is not done, we are talking the health of several generations, not just one generation. So just think about the medical cost associated with that. So I think it's so important to fix the problem that exists so that the healthcare burden is reduced, not just for this generation, but several generations. It really breaks my heart going to the communities.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, and even within the schools, when I don't eat healthy, when I don't have access to good quality meat and like whole grains or minimally processed foods and a variety of different colors of fruits and vegetables and just the overall variety, I start to feel like I can't think straight, and it affects the way that I think. And my heart goes out to actually children, because I see them not being able to kind of get out of the downward spiral, which is, if we go to school and we can't do well because we can't focus, we can't remember things, maybe we get sick more often because we're not eating well or for whatever reason, that limits the future higher educational type of opportunities that they can have. And so they're limited then to jobs that that aren't going to pay as well, or maybe that require a lot of labor, and then basically I just see it as a spiral that if nothing gets changed, then the next generation goes to school and they're not eating good food, and then they can't think straight at school. Like I see education as being a really important part of getting out of this social economic kind of stagnant. But to do well in school, you need to think well.
Yeah,
and you need to have emotional regulation, which is also tied to our nutrition.
Yeah, it's like, let's talk social determinants of health, right? I mean, let's talk about it's adequate housing, adequate, affordable, accessible nutrition, health, then schooling, and the building blocks of community.
Yeah. It really saddens me when people get maybe, a diagnosis or a label of ADHD, when I honestly think that if dietary components were changed, that they might actually have a better outcome and be able to manage that a little bit better.
Chief Benwell, was that you there weighing in?
I'm still here, yes.
Yeah, I was just just checking in for your thoughts. When either on some of the discussion around food insecurity, around asking for help, or also just thoughts around the benefits of two-eyed seeing when we do research projects these days.
Well, and that's the hope with these research projects, that we develop new nutritional foods and nutritional supplements and even breakthroughs that could involve and create economic opportunities for the regions, for our communities. And because a lot of the things that are happening with us on the Port is the same thing happening in Chief Peggy's area, same things happening in Flat Bay, same things happening in St. George's. So we all have the same shared issues, even though we're different. Mm-hmm. But I'm very excited with these partnerships and with the universities, because in the hope that our communities do benefit and we have something tangible that we can take to our people, and whether it's jobs or activities or just nutritional foods ideas or nutritional supplements, something whatever that helps them. Maybe it's a major breakthrough that helps them cure ailments. I don't know, right? But we hope for all these great things.
Chief White, Chief Peggy, I'm just curious for yourself. Recent years, folks talk about truth and reconciliation. Folks talk about decolonizing. And they talk about relationships between whether it's the settler community, indigenous communities. But then I hear this conversation that we're having about the issues that your community has been facing with poverty, food insecurity, asking for help, not getting it, saying it, crisis, catastrophe. I'm just wondering your thoughts there on that.
Well, not being recognized allows the government not to take responsibility to their fiduciary duties towards Indigenous people. But we live in a community that's, like half non-Indigenous. Mm-hmm. But whatever, the Indigenous value is whatever we can better for ourselves, we will better for our neighbors as well. Right? So our principles are based on sharing and making sure that everyone else is taken care of as much as we can. It's hard to do that with lack of services. But hopefully, even working with the one university and people, scientists, politicians, whoever, they come to our communities and they see, and greatness that we have, and they are inspired to stand up on our behalf with us and say there's got to be a better way. And I can't thank Dr. Chima and her team enough for and all of the Montney Grenfell people that work with us and are partnering with us to try to bring some economic stability and maybe something that helps in every way that we can build our community. And as we build for ourselves, we build for our whole community, because that's Mi'kmaq values, right? That, you can't go to bed hungry when your neighbors, you can't go to bed and fed and your neighbor is hungry, and we need to stick to that. So I'm looking forward to the future, and hopefully we can, make some strides and have our communities recognized by the provincial government. It's so important because one organization doesn't speak to on the ground. They don't know our neighbors. It's not a Mi'kmaq community is based in tradition, occupancy, use, and traditional ways, and no one can speak for us but us. And a paternalistic mindset. We can't help ourselves. We need to be included in the conversation. And so when you're talking to wide seeing, it's about taking our point of view as well. Comes back to consultation, all those things that our province continues to neglect community Mi'kmaq bands, and that has to change. And they have no legal basis to do that, and they should rectify that as soon as possible.
Sarah, talk to me a little bit about some of the work you were doing at the school when you visited.
Yeah, so annually there's a student symposia where the researchers, PhD students, master's students, and supervisors, we all go to an Indigenous community and we present our research to the community. Chiefs are there, members of the community are there, other people working on the other work packages are there, and that's one part of that's like over 1 or 2 days. And then we always have school visits where we go to the local school and we translate our research findings into something that the kids can understand. And so the project that I hopefully will be working on in Dr. Chima's lab is adding a fermented aspect to marine foods. And so I made a batch of fermented carrots, and I put seaweed in it because it comes from the ocean. And I did that as a little tool, not only to get them tasting something that's sour but very, very healthy for you. I did it to show them that by eating fermented foods, we can improve our intestinal health, and we can be adding things from the ocean in them because the microbes within the ferment actually make the nutrients more bioavailable to us, and they enhance bioactivity of those. And so it creates a superior product. And then on a preservation standpoint, and dealing with food insecurity, it helps to preserve foods at a time when there's an abundance for times in the year when there's a lower accessibility to fresh vegetables.
Right. Namda, what are the community visits like for yourself? So to start with, like stories from Sri Lanka and the family stories, and then to visit communities, Indigenous communities on the island of Newfoundland, and also through Professor Chima's lab. Like, how does it feel for you to do these things?
Yeah, so speaking with my experience in the lab and community visit, so I would share one experience that we had 2 types of snack, and we gave them seaweed snacks and we gave them Cheetos.
Yeah.
So the kids didn't like seaweed snack at all. They said whack.
Yeah.
But the Cheetos are really tasty.
I mean, I understand
So
that.
they love it. But
Yeah.
the nutrition quality is 0.
Yeah.
So we were trying them to insist that, okay, this is good and this is bad. But the kids were saying, can you make something like a seaweed gummy, which
Yep.
is very tasty? And same time, it should be nutritious. So that's my point of view about this. And the traditional knowledge should be incorporated, which food we have to use for produce these tasty or commercial foods. So that's like, foods are nutritious, that then they have to be processed in a way that they can enjoy. Foods are to be enjoyable. So, and they should be appealing, they should be tasty. So that's a main point we should consider when we are informing people how to eat, how to process food to be nutritious at the same time, and other functional properties. Or like, foods are medicine. There's a saying that food is medicine. So,
Yeah.
and what you are is what you're eating.
Yeah.
So that should be considered. That's my point.
And again, correct me if I go into a spot that's incorrect, but if you decrease rates of food insecurity, you shore up your food security rates, you have nutritious, appropriate, accessible food in a community, and then you also have early exposure to these nutritious foods, as opposed to when you don't have a choice and food is processed, and that is the diet and the taste that folks know. That can make that can make a lot of a difference, can it not?
Huge difference.
Yeah, and so there's a double nutritional burden when you're food insecure and you live in, I guess, the modern world where we have this westernization, where people's taste buds are for these sugary, high-fat, high-salt type foods. And so if children are exposed to that early as like the only thing that's offered to them, or have the preference for it, like most children do.
Look, now I'm just at Cheetos and my mouth started to water. I was like, oh, no, Adam, bad. No, Adam, no.
Yeah, it makes things harder for them. And the worst is when it's given in schools, and when that food is available in schools. And I don't know, when I was a kid, I always thought of schools as being like, just always wanting what's best for kids. And it as a dietitian, it really saddens me when I see foods like processed subs and chips and pop and pizza as some of the few things that the children are able to buy if they don't bring a lunch from home. Ultimately, the people, not only parents but also I'd say schools are really should be thinking about their roles. Parents' role is to provide foods based on what foods, when, and where, and the children chooses whether they eat and how much. And so, people that we trust, people that children can trust, which is parents and teachers at school, they should be providing foods that are known to be healthy.
Let me, we're almost out of time, so Chief Peggy White, final thought from you, and then we'll go to Chief Benoit, just about 30 seconds each for today before the show's over.
Well, I'd just like to thank you, Adam, and the universities and Dr. Chima, and thank you for all the work that you do and bringing light to some of these issues. And, hopefully we can move forward in a very positive way and have some real successes in our communities. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chief Peggy. Chief Benoit, 20 seconds to you. Final thought?
I echo what Chief Peggy said, and I'm really excited that these things can bring great opportunities for our communities. And thank you for having us.
Oh, hey, for both of you, thanks so much for coming on the program again. I appreciate your time and the chat. Professor Chima, final word to you for today, 20 seconds.
Well, I would say my hope is that everyone gets equitable access to healthy food to maintain health.
Yeah, because
That's my hope.
Because if you look at the grocery stores of Newfoundland and Labrador, there's lots of food to go around.
Oh.
And I will just leave that there for today. That's it for the show, everyone. Thank you for listening. The Signal at cbc.ca if you want to send us a note with your thoughts. Monday, artificial intelligence in our lives, from our offices to our schools to our sometimes deep thoughts. My guest is tech critic Paris Marks, who has thoughts on regulations and important questions we should all be asking about AI. That is Monday on The Signal. Have a great weekend, everyone. Cheers.